Hey everybody, Hooch here, and if you're watching the video, please consider subscribing because according to YouTube, not enough data to show this report. Hey YouTube, how we all doing today? Hope everyone had a great weekend. I wanted to kick things off this week on the channel looking at some CS2 content of all things. For those of you who've been watching me on Twitch, you know I basically started playing Valorant and streaming at the same time, and it just was sort of by coincidence. I am not much of an FPS gamer, so I didn't think I would really enjoy Valorant as much as I have been. Some of that stems from playing CS. I believe it was actually still CS Source back in the mid 2000s. That's why I have a Steam account to this day. Was because of that game. But the biggest thing that kept me away is the more I played, the more cheaters I was encountering, and it wasn't a small enough percentage to make me want to not only keep playing the game, but potentially keep playing it in the competitive sense of the game or in the competitive modes. So with CS2 around the corner and the fact that I've actually played a fair bit of Valorant, been having some fun, I was thinking, hey, maybe I hop into that. And then all of a sudden it all came flooding back of like, wait, the game itself wasn't why I stopped playing. It was the rampant and just unapologetic cheating that occurred. So I randomly stumbled across this video from the Score Esports, I think it is. I will post it as always in the description down below. It's a quick video, but the guy here is seemingly saying that the new Valve anti-cheat software VAC is actually good, it seems like. So I'm a little bit skeptical. I think regardless, I'll hop into CS2 anyway, like a lot of people out there. But I, as someone who has been in the gaming world, and also just you see this really in any industry, for some reason, cheaters, hackers, whatever the sort of dark underbelly of an industry is, always kind of seems to be a step ahead. So, random personal anecdote, but back in the original Xbox days, some older kids I knew they call it hacking an Xbox. I don't know what the actual term is. Basically, they soldered a chip of some kind onto the original Xbox, dropped in a big hard drive, and then they would go down to Blockbuster, which, if you don't know, which you may not, was a place where you could rent video games and movies. And they had some agreement at that time where you could rent any one video game for any amount of time. So you could literally go and rent a game for a month or a year or 2 days. And this hack allowed them to copy games onto a hard drive directly, and then you would have a library on your actual Xbox. So I'm sure you can kind of see where this is going. They would go to the Blockbuster 3-4 times a day, get 3 or 4 games, burn them onto a hard drive, and then return the games and go get a new one. And so they would just end up with dozens or hundreds even of games on this thing. So Microsoft got had a big issue with this, as you can imagine, even though it was almost certainly less than even 5% of Xbox owners did this. It probably wasn't even 1%. But in their own hubris, they came out and said the Xbox 360, the next generation, was going to be unhackable. That they weren't going to be able to do what they had done with the original Xbox. The cheaters or the hackers weren't. And I think it was less than 48 hours. It might have even been 24 hours. Someone had already hacked the Xbox 360. So long-winded story and long-winded way of saying the hackers, the cheaters, they always seem to find a way. So that's what makes me a little bit skeptical when I hear somebody say that this new anti-cheat software is going to do really great things. In fairness, maybe it will. In playing Valorant, there's only one for sure cheater I've come across. And at this point, I'm level 30-ish, give or take a few levels. So however many hours roughly that is.
VAC Live is real, and it's already in Counter-Strike 2. Not only will matches be ended when a cheater is found, but offenders can potentially be banned the moment they are reported. It might be the least sexy of all the new changes coming to Counter-Strike 2, but it might just be the most important.
This is the one I would be the most excited about, because the game itself, if you've played the game for thousands of hours, there's going to be nuances in CS2 that you're going to spot that I won't. And I get that. But that comes with you playing it for thousands of hours. To most people who are going to be probably like me, who maybe have played it a little bit, or certainly to people who've never played it, the nuance changes are going to be fairly lost. But what everyone can appreciate is, at the very least, less cheaters. Eliminating it entirely probably won't happen, but certainly less. And that makes me happy, and that makes me want to play the game.
And the most expensive. And after finally seeing it in action, we've got quite a few questions.
And I doubt they'll answer a lot of them, because I wouldn't think you could. Oh yeah, they just won the Stanley Cup. That's
so
right.
It's been about a week since we got that big CS2 update, and I speak for everyone when I say it's been so much fun watching everyone play Mirage.
Okay.
But aside from all the gameplay changes we saw was, in my opinion, the biggest update coming to Counter-Strike 2. VAC Live. And from what we've already seen of it, it's fucking crazy.
All right, let's see. VAC has detected a cheater and ended the match, and will not affect. So yeah, nobody gets a win, nobody gets a loss, and then the cheater is either instantly banned, their account is usually frozen, if not just banned.
Now, weeks ago I did a video talking about the rumblings of Valve's new anti-cheat we were getting from data miners. And in that video, I extensively spoke about how big of an issue hackers are in CSGO and why an overhauled anti-cheat system would
He's not
change
lying.
everything. And well, it turns out all the data mining was legit, because Valve has announced that VAC has been updated to ban players in real time. In their update, they said,
In
quote,
real time?
VAC will now live ban and gracefully terminate the match at the end of the round, unless it was the last round and the cheater lost. The match will not affect any participants.
Hold on. So we'll gracefully terminate the match at the end of the round unless it was the last round and the cheater lost. But then aren't you punishing a team? And you would expect the team with the cheater would win. So it's like, who feels bad for them? But at the same time, I honestly would cheat. I would honestly report somebody on my team for cheating. I would. So unless I'm misreading it, it feels like it might be almost punishing a team for having a cheater on it. But maybe I'm misreading it.
Skill group. And players that were not lobbied
Okay.
with the VAC ban player will earn their XP.
Okay, so they're
for
an
the
XP,
match.
but
now,
no,
for a
okay.
second, I thought we'd have to hold off on doing this video because we wouldn't have had footage to show it off. But silly me.
They do?
This is Counter-Strike. So obviously, people were cheating already. The banning part, to say it's abrupt would be...
I'm curious what they mean by gracefully, because isn't the match, it's just like a cheater has been detected, nobody's getting a win or a loss on this one. That's great. I mean, I guess it's kind of great. Well, what's ungraceful? They just start blaring music and send in the FBI? Like what?
An understatement.
Olha.
Okay, so so the guy that got banned from VAC Live on CS2 yesterday was banned literally instantly after a single. Interesting. I'm sure he'll go into this, so I'll let the video play. But yeah, it looks like he dropped a report on this guy for deagling him in the head.
Yes, the fucking millisecond that Buddy reported his opponent for hitting a 1-deeg through the smoke, he was blasted out of the server and given a vacation. Now, though many commented on how funny it was, others pointed just how impressive and potentially scary this new tech
Yeah, so this was my, and
is.
he'll seems
If
like
this
he'll
player-
cover it, but how easy would that be to just abuse? And like, there's no way it gets to this point, but I'm saying, imagine if you, every time you were losing a game, you 5-man report one person on their team to trigger some kind of anti-cheat thing that ends the match, and then nobody would win or lose. Especially, people would absolutely do that in any rank, but certainly in higher rank, I'm sorry, everyone would.
there was
that.
in fact cheating, it changes everything. No more frustration, no more second guessing every death you have. No more
I'll still blame cheaters for my deaths. I'll still blame cheaters.
wasted time. If they somehow weren't cheating, then it's concerning. False bans are obviously a thing in online games, and Valve is no stranger to handing those out. The question is, with something this powerful, will it lead to a staggering amount of that occurrence? Or is it truly sophisticated enough to be infallible?
Well, and here's the thing. I can't imagine he goes into this, otherwise I would keep playing it, but Valve can't share that much about it, because every iota, every tiny detail they share about their new anti-cheat update helps the hackers get around it eventually, which they will eventually. So I don't think we're going to get
At this
a ton
point,
of
Valve
clarity
has
on
yet
it.
to release any more information on
And
the
they shouldn't,
details of
honestly.
VAC Live,
We
but
want to see if it
given
works.
its importance, I'm sure they'll dedicate quite a bit of marketing towards it.
And again, they can market it. We're free of cheaters, no more cheaters, which isn't going to be a thing. There'll still be cheaters, but as long as it's minimal as much as possible, and you're able to to catch more and more of them in real time to avoid losing, rank, losing any kind of ranked matches, especially, then that's great. But they shouldn't. I really hope they don't share anything about it.
Just don't expect them to explain exactly how it works.
Okay,
For obvious reasons, devs try to stay pretty tight-lipped when it comes to their anti-cheat software.
Yeah.
They don't want to give out anything that might tip off someone with nefarious intentions. So, for the time being, all we can really do is speculate. One option is that VAC detected the account as being for the time being. All we can really do is speculate. One option is that VAC detected the account as being a bit sus already, and they were just waiting for a report to hand out.
Okay, that makes more sense. So if you think of a horse race or something where they're all lined up and then they have those gates rearing to go, basically that would be Valve anti-cheat. They're rearing to go. They're just waiting for somebody to drop the gate, aka drop a report. And then they're immediately like, we have some human level of confirmation with what we already believe. Now, how wide is that net? Again, people will instantly abuse it. You will see a huge uptick of reports, probably just in general. But if it proves to be any kind of strategy for mitigating losses, for example, or just trolling people, let's not forget about that. You will see a lot of reports, and maybe they have some stuff on the back end where if somebody's overly reporting, they no longer trigger this sort of automated ban, real-time ban. But again, we won't know for sure.
Man. But if this software is as powerful as we think it could be, once the player was reported, VAC did a live check, found something, and then banned the player. And as a Valve pen tester said in the replies, this seems to be the case. There has been quite a bit of discourse recently about the things that Valve are taking from Valorant to be used in CS2. And while I'm guilty of propagating this as well, in the case of this anti-cheat being similar to Vanguard, I don't think it matters whatsoever. If a game is fun and satisfying, the only thing that players ask for is a competitive environment where they can trust the results of every gunfight.
Absolutely.
And improving things like tick rate and anti-cheat are the best ways to do this. And for Valve's sake, I hope it works out, because as history shows, this shit is very, very expensive. In an interview conducted by A16Z Games with Raidbase, the new studio built by the co-founders of Valorant, the OG designers detailed just how costly these quality of life improvements are.
So we never saw Valorant as a feature fight, except that there were certain features that were so important, we called them table stakes, like anti-cheat. Again, I have quit every shooter because of cheating. We wanted to invest more into that than anyone else.
And I think it feels worse in these 5v5. Valorant, I would say, is close to 80% CSGO, and then the rest is Overwatch and whatever. But so, for example, I played Battlefield. I used to play it on console before I could afford a PC. And there really weren't cheaters on console, but on PC there were. But when you play a game mode with, I forget, it's 50v50 or whatever it was, it's not as big a deal. Yes, it's still super annoying, but you just hop off to another server, basically. And on top of that, you can kind of play away from them in a way. It's still annoying as hell. It's still obnoxious as hell. But it's somewhat mitigated by the large size. In a 5v5 where time to kill is very fast relative to a Call of Duty, Battlefields, something like that, and there's really no way to sort of avoid the cheater, because at some point it comes down to that 1v1 or whatever. I think it feels worse in a game like in a game like CSGO, CS2, or Valorant. So I'm not going to say that it's not important in other games, but at all. But I don't even think like a battle royale. The only time it would even start to approach that in a battle royale, for example, would be maybe if you're one of the final teams, and the only reason you didn't get a victory, which is going to be few and far between if you're an average player, is because of a cheater. Yeah, okay, that might feel worse, but how many times are you getting to the final 3 teams and you're getting killed by a cheater, for example? So it's not only table stakes for every game, like you said, every FPS, but for these games in particular, I think it's incredibly nauseating to play against these fucking cheaters.
Mm-hmm. How hard is that?
The hardest.
How expensive is that?
Literally tens of millions of dollars.
Holy shit.
If anyone is making a shooter without the full force of a big company, I wish you the best.
This just highlights how big of a commitment things
depressing.
like backlive and subtick servers are. It's likely that without these features, Counter-Strike 2, with its existing improvements, would still be a very popular game. But choosing not to puts everything at risk for Valve. Believe it or not, VAC was pretty revolutionary for its time, and I'm sure it cost millions of dollars to create and operate.
Those millions of dollars like 20 years ago.
But just like the 60-tick servers, it's starting to show its age. As the Valorant founders also said in that interview, developing a game these days is not a battle of innovations. Almost everything has been done before to some capacity. The true battle is the commitment you have to offering your player base an experience that is as smooth as possible. Are you willing to put the time and money in, or are you just going to ride on the coattails of your IP? Well, with the progress already made on VAC...
And to be fair, Valve has been criticized for doing the latter. They, at one point, were one of the most prolific game studios with games like Half-Life, which a mod was then what spawned Counter-Strike. Dota. I mean, there was a time where they actually made games, but they have since shifted to being the mainly digital delivery, which makes a lot of money, has less risk, and I get it. But at some point, you can't, in my opinion, if you want to continue to monetize IP as opposed to just shifting entirely to digital distribution and a library for games for customers, you got to invest in something. And they're not, again, there's going to be nuanced differences that seasoned players in CS2 will notice. But as somebody who hasn't played that game in who knows how long, I probably won't recognize any of them. I'll basically be relearning the game for what little I knew. So the quickest way to get me, which is not even a new player, but kind of a new player, the quickest way to get me to quit is if I just start seeing one guy, flick headshotting people through walls every single round. Like I'm done. Like, I don't have patience for that. I just don't. It's anti-fun. And that's not why I play games. It's not why you play games, I don't think.
Live and the subtick servers, it seems that Valve is 100% committed to that pursuit. And I hope to God it works out. Unless someone's blatantly hacking, then obviously I'll report them. But if someone's super sus and people are calling them out, I usually will just be someone else will report them. I don't want to be the person that dogpiles on someone. But at the same time, those people could also be smurfing. And in both cases, see you later.
Okay, so that was a solid little update. Again, I didn't think about it when I first started watching it, but they're not going to share much and they shouldn't share much. And I would caution, they don't need to hear this from me, but if for some reason they would, I would heavily caution Valve from ever releasing literally anything about their anti-cheat. It should be entirely just, it's better. You're going to see that it's better. Come try it out. And in my opinion, in my estimation, regardless of whether or not it works as well as they say it does, or it, to me, like I was saying, ends up being maybe quite not as good as they say, number one, and then number two, over time, the cheaters catch up and learn how to get around it faster than they can patch it or whatever. The beginning of this game, when it first drops, which is actually coming up pretty soon, is probably the best time because the pool of players who aren't cheating is going to be probably at its biggest. That's usually what happens at launch. It's usually the biggest pool of players is at launch. And the pool of cheaters, because some of the cheats aren't going to be out yet. Yes, it says they've already had some people cheating, but it'll probably take at least a little bit of time to develop the cheats and then start selling them and whatever. So the pool of cheaters will be at its smallest, the pool of players, which will be at its biggest, to then dilute the pool of cheaters. The game, the first week, first couple months, hopefully even, will probably be the best time to check this game out. So if you are not an FPS guy, like I'm not, I truly am not, I'm not great at it. But I have found that it's more fun than I remember, more fun than I thought it would be. There's a bit of a learning curve. Arguably, the most important part of learning these FPS games is knowing the map, knowing every corner, knowing everywhere they can peek you or be camping. That's stuff you have to learn, but it should still be fun. So if you're on the fence, if you're thinking about it, highly suggest when the game drops, if you're able, that might be the best time to play it. So but that'll do it for this one. Thanks so much for stopping by, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.